Welcome everyone to Story Engine 101. It's a new 101. This is the first time I'm teaching an actual 101 class on Story Engine. So it's going to be a beta class as well as the fact that the software is in beta. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we get started without further ado. Story Engine is in beta for those with a Pro or a Max plan. So when you are in Sudowrite, to find out if you have a Pro or Max plan, you can click your little gear and click Manage Your Membership. It is the professional plan or the max plan, and that's so that you have enough words to really get the most out of Sudowrite, out of Story Engine. Okay, so other than that, so if you have a different, once Story Engine's rolled out fully, if you have a different plan like Legacy or Hobby Student, you're not going to see Story Engine in your Sudowrite. So we're gonna just open up a new document. And just like we're used to, it all looks pretty much the same. I could just start writing in here and everything like that. I'm going to go ahead and call this Story Engine 101 because we know what happens when we don't name our projects. We get a sea of untitled projects, and that helps nobody. Okay, and Story Engine is right here on the left-hand side. Real fast, we have a question from the chat about how do you start in the middle of the pros, and it doesn't support that ability yet. That is one thing that we're working on, Harper. Okay, so Story Engine, click Story Engine, and we have this really beautiful blank canvas. A little bit about Story Engine. Story Engine works left to right, and the right side is informed by the left side. So this is going to cause some authors to have some issues about, this is a new way of thinking about your writing. If you are somebody who has a tendency to pants, we will talk about that probably towards the end about how you could use Story Engine in a pantsing type scenario. But for the first go through, I'm going to go through Story Engine, how it's intended to be used or how it was designed to be used. And then we'll start working on how you could use Story Engine a little bit differently if you have a different writing scenario. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a brain dump. So go ahead and start giving me in the chat some of your ideas for a story, and I'll see which one kind of resonates with me. We're just going to put the information in the brain dump that we have about the story, anything at all, what genre we want to do. It's early in the morning, so I can even do horror. I won't have nightmares this early in the morning. Does anyone have any story ideas that they want today? Okay, we have Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to try to steer away from public domain today, just so that we can really showcase the character box and make sure people can see that unique. Okay, a Gothic Victorian house that wants to protect the people who live inside. I am sold on that. So we're going to go with a Gothic Victorian house that wants to protect the people who live inside. However, it becomes a little too overprotective. When a young family inherits the house after the great aunt dies, she and her partner and their children, I'm intentionally leaving the gender vague because I want to see what it does with it, and their children, we'll do teenage children. Their 2 teen children begin to learn the house's secrets with ghosts and magic that dates to the 1800s in a seacoast town that was once huge for whaling. I'm just adding stuff up. I'm just coming up with stuff as I go in the Northeast US. Okay, so you'll notice I gave it a lot of information here. I gave it some information about what characters I want, the ghost house. I've talked about where this story is taking place. I'm just kind of giving it a brain dump. Your brain dump can be specific like this. I find that results are better the more clear information you can give it, because thank goodness the AI is not a mind reader yet. But you can also give it fewer words if you're more of a pantser and you just want to kind of see where things go and you're using the AI more of a like a brainstorming partner. Does anyone have any questions so far about the brain dump? or any additional information they want in it.
Yes, I have a quick question. Oh, I
Could
should
you raise
raise
your
my
hand
hand.
so I can
Sure.
see the name up at the top? Perfect, John.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. I was wondering if there's a word limit for the brain dump.
There is. So it might be hard to see, but it's right here in pale. We can have up to 2,000 words.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
I missed that.
We need a pet. You have to have a pet. Okay,
Okay.
I agree. We need a pet. I think it should be a
Okay.
neat pet. I think the pet should be, I was going to suggest an iguana. Murphy, a German Shepherd. Sure. We'll do that one. But I refuse to kill the pet. The pet is not going to be harmed.
Oh, that's writing 101. You don't kill the dog.
Save the cat. Save the dog. I'm sorry. James Scott Bell calls it pet the dog. Has a rescue German Shepherd mix pup named Murphy.
Who can hear the house?
And a tortoise. No pets are harmed in this story, but they do contribute to understanding the weird things happening. Go ahead, Shannon, what's your question?
I know that there's a place for characters later. Is it better to put in characters here if you know about them?
Yes, absolutely. Any characters you know about them, you want to feed them here, because when we generate the characters, we want the characters on the left-hand side. Everything moves from left to right. So,
and would you also put in information about the POV here?
Not here. I would actually put that in style, which we're going to talk about next. Well, we'll talk about genre next. How about a secret room that the house wants the family to discover? I like it. I love that you can like throw all the ingredients into this and you'll get a soup. There is a secret room in the house that the spirit of the house wants the family to discover. Okay. MJ, go ahead. MJ?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump anything. If I
Oh,
did.
okay. You could just lower your hand then.
So sorry.
No worries. Good to see you. John, did you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Emphasize certain. I'm sorry. Is there a way to emphasize certain aspects of the story that you might want in your brain dump to be more pronounced in the story? In other words, maybe there is something to do with the pets. You might want the pets to be more prevalent in the story. Is there
That's
a way
a great
that you
question.
can emphasize? I know.
I don't have an answer on that yet, honestly, because I haven't tested it. My hunch would be like, we would be able to do some exploring on that. So what we do with these classes is we run them all the time, all throughout the week. And those are the kinds of experiments that we do in a class anytime. In this particular case, because I'm trying to do
quotation marks.
The intro to start, we're going to just go through it. But I'm going to write that experiment down because I think that that's something that we could all synthesize on at a later time in class. Yeah. So thank you though. That's really brilliant. That's a really good idea. Some ideas I have would be maybe asterisks on things, or also like you could label things in your brain dump of like percentages that you want to care about. Like this thing is class, like ghosts are 30% of the story, but 40% of the story is family drama or something like that. So we might even be able to do something like that. You also can kind of nuance style, change that with your genre and your style as well. So the house is called, what do we want to name the house? Annie, you suggested the house have a name. Do you have any ideas for the house? Sorry to put you on the spot. Because all I'm thinking is like Ravenloft or something very, very doomsy. I haven't tested that yet, MJ. That's a really great question. If in Braindump you could say you want something in the generated outline, I would probably control that in the synopsis more so. So the crow's nest. Okay, sure. We'll call that.
I can say that I did
I like that.
in the brain dump. I actually dumped a previous outline from another book that I had, and it kind of honored that when it generated the outline.
Okay, very cool. So the genre, I'm going to call this light horror, suspenseful, ghost story. Does that sound good to everyone? I don't really want like the house
Yeah.
like bleeding blood everywhere or anything like that. I think that might be a little too. It's 12 in the afternoon. All right, so the style box. Yes, Rick, go ahead. Sure, I'll answer another question real
Sorry,
fast.
I couldn't-
Jessica, you don't need to bullet point. You can bullet point in the brain dump. The brain dump will take whatever format you give it as long as it's not interpretive dance.
I was wondering if you wanted to explain just what the purpose of the brain dump is and how it influences the other boxes.
Sure, we can do that. And yeah, the interpretive dance was like a joke, but yeah, the format can be pretty free form here. You could also play with different formats and see how it goes. I do want to point out a few features of the brain dump that is new, and that's on every single box. We have this handy dandy clock, which is helpful because I can click the history, and now it's a little overkill at the moment. This will get a lot cleaner down the road, but for the most part, we just wanted to make it work first. But I can see exactly when I started the brain dump and when I finished. I also think a hack of the cool history thing is how many of you wanted to see like how long you've been working on a project? Exactly. So the history is one way that you could kind of like do that, and you can run the history different ways, and you can click restore for different ones. The brain dump is the kernel, I will say, for everything that comes next. And the reason I say that is because it's like dominoes. So what's going to happen is the story engine is going to look at brain dump, it's going to look at genre, and it's going to look like style. And then that's going to feed our synopsis. We validate our synopsis, and then from there, we're going to generate a list of characters. We validate our characters, and then from there, we generate an outline. Now, the characters box looks at the synopsis and your genre and your style. It doesn't look at brain dump anymore. Brain dump really only enforces synopsis, and it also now influences commands. So you want your brain dump to be in congruence with other things as you go to the right. This is a new change for some of you people who have been using Story Engine for a while now, all of a week. Brain dump now influences commands. And for those of you who are like, what are commands? You're going to see them in a few minutes. Once we have our outline, then we're going to have a drop down that's populated with all of our scenes. And then those scenes are where we're going to start being able to write our story commands and stuff for the scene. And you guys will see that. That's kind of like the new way of writing. Adrian has a question about a certain quirk, like always uses quotes from Plato, or that they misquote things. That's something I would put in characterization. You could put it in the brain dump, but that might artificially give it more weight than you necessarily want it. Because if that's something specific about that character, we only want that to appear when that character is in that scene. We don't necessarily want the AI to think that that needs to happen in every single scene. So yeah, and it's a new change, Jessica. They just did it over the weekend. The guys went really hard tinkering with the prompting and stuff in the background because they listened to y'all's feedback, and they really wanted to make those commands really strong so that you're getting the story that you want. Yeah. Okay, so style. The style box is like a wild card box. It's a global box. I talk about genre and style are global boxes. They literally influence everything to the right. Our UI is going to change and morph as that moves forward, so that it's even more clear about that. But for right now, it's handy dandy on your left-hand side, all the way over on the bottom. So
Ryan just commented.
I'm sorry?
Ryan just commented that they're thinking about stopping brain dump from
Yes.
affecting.
I saw, thanks. So style is really, our users are finding that they can use it for a lot of different things. It's kind of unlimited what you can put in style. Whatever you need to influence the scene that you're generating, whatever you need to influence the box that you're generating. So for example, I'm about to generate my synopsis. So I could do first person point of view and stuff right now, but that may not necessarily be necessary for the synopsis. I might want to just put commands in here that are specific to the synopsis part. If you write in your synopsis, Xavier has a question. If you write in synopsis your ideas for the synopsis and then click generate, will it erase it? Yes, it will erase it. The way you'd want to do that is after it generates a synopsis, if you have some more ideas specifically, you'd put that in feedback and then tell it to rewrite with your feedback. Or our number one philosophy, don't be a T-Rex, just do it yourself. You always have the ability in all of these boxes to change it yourself. Just keep in mind, change it. If you're going to generate it, change it after you generate it, because if you click generate again, it's going to erase what changes you've made. I know that was a lot of information. Do we have any questions about the style box so far? Yes, you can and should change the style based on whatever you're generating, because this box is so mighty. And correct me if I'm wrong, users who've had it for a week, like you can really dial all kinds of things. Like last week when I was teaching this, I put lots of dialogue in there and I got too much dialogue in the scene. I had to go back and like, no, not lots of dialogue. Dial back the dialogue. People need to shut up. So
Point of view, first person past tense, first person present tense, for specific scene generations, it really works great, because if you want to do like one scene from the villain's point of view or something like that, you can really amp up the style for the villainous, ominous stuff, and then dial it back down. So, but you do it's a lot like in pseudo-write, the key details. You have to remember that you changed it.
yeah,
There is no history on it, which is kind of a little annoying, because sometimes I've done something where I'm like, oh, that was really good, and I didn't save it.
we can add a history on that. That's not a problem. That's actually a brilliant idea, because that's basically saving prompts. I wrote that down. Annie, go ahead.
Can you repeat what you just said about generate first, make changes first? What was that again?
Yeah, so I will comment on that again when you see it in motion, but basically you can always make changes on any of the boxes that generate. So once I click generate on synopsis, it's going to fill this box up. I can make changes to it, handwrite, like type into it. But once I do that, if I was to click the generate button again, it's going to delete everything that's in the box, including the changes I made.
All right.
So you want to, if you're going to make changes to it, you want to do it after you click generate.
Got you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rick, did you have a question?
Yeah, so with the style box, you can change that between scene generations. So if I have two scenes with one style, and then as Leland said, I want to change to maybe a villain point of view, I can change the style box before I generate that scene.
Absolutely. And you want to change that style box before you even generate your commands, which we're going to see in a minute. So style, one caveat I want to give about the style box, and that's important. It does give some examples here. So you can always on any box click the question mark and it will give you some examples. So David, you had a great question about the examples. So if I click this question mark, it gives the examples of certain author names, but I'm going to give one caveat on that. If you put an author name in here, the AI does have a tendency to start bringing in elements of that author's work, especially if they're public domain, maybe like specific characters. One night we did a Twilight Zone, and I kept taking all the references to Twilight Zone. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out why we kept getting Twilight Zone. Turned out we were using the style of the author of Twilight Zone, so it just kept injecting it. Same thing with Lovecraft. If you say you want it in a Lovecraft way, you may start seeing Cthulhu all of a sudden in your contemporary romance, and that may not be what you want. So, or maybe it is what you want. I don't know. It's a public domain character. So, so you may have to twist it to where instead of saying Lovecraft, you might say in the style of a really prosy 19th century author. So you may have to convert it to something that the AI understands. Sean, that's a great question. Sean asks if in the point you will be able to upload samples of your work and tell it to write in that style. Yes, we are moving in that direction. We are just not quite there yet. But that is where all this technology and stuff is headed. So give us another couple of months. We're working on it. Okay, so for this style, for the ghost, I don't know why it says shepherd. Fine, we'll capitalize it. Be happy. I get triggered by little red squiggles. Like if it's a little red squiggle, I'm like, must fix it. Okay, so the style for this, since I already did light horror, suspenseful ghost story, I'm going to say for a modern reading audience, lots of twists and turns and many cliffhangers. Now, why am I using my style like this when that may not be the style I would use when I'm actually writing scenes? And that's because the next thing I'm going to generate is the synopsis, and I want to take into consideration that this book is for a modern reading audience, that it should have lots of twists and turns and many cliffhangers that would absolutely influence the generation of a synopsis that may not be perfect. Yes, that may not be perfect for a scene generation. David asks, can you tell it to be snarky and sarcastic? Absolutely. You can put specific characters when we get to characters that they are snarky and sarcastic, if only like one character is. If the whole thing is in a snarky, sarcastic tone, like say that's your narrator, you can absolutely throw that in the style box. It's a very powerful little box. It doesn't get the respect that it serves. Okay, so are we ready to rock and roll and generate our first story engine? Like we've given it the input. Here we go. So you click generate and you can watch the button kind of fill up. You can always click cancel and stop a generation in the middle. Okay. So if you see it going off the rails, like right now we're at 333 words. If you're like, no, stop, you can always click stop, especially if you see something wrong. So here we go.
But if you do stop it, you can't continue it.
No, right yet. That's coming. That is something that we are working on. So very soon you will be able to stop and start, but you can't quite yet. Nestled in a seacoast town that once thrived on whaling stands the grand and Gothic Victorian house known as the Crow's Nest. Its walls are steeped in magic and secrets that date back to the 1800s, guarded by the spirit of the house itself. When a young family inherits the home after the passing of the mother's great aunt, they soon realize that their new abode is more than just a shelter. The family, consisting of a mother, her partner, and 2 teenage children, moves into the Crow's Nest with their rescued German Shepherd mixed pup Murphy and their beloved tortoise. As they settle into their new home, strange occurrences begin to happen. Doors creak open on their own, windows shatter without explanation, and voices whisper in the night. The family is both fascinated and frightened by the supernatural happenings. As they continue to explore the house, they discover a secret room that has been hidden away for decades. The spirit of the house urges them to unlock its mysteries, and they begin to unravel a dark history involving the town's past whaling industry. Dun, dun, dun. The family learns that the Crow's Nest was built by a wealthy whaling captain who used his profits to fund a secret society that practiced dark magic. Okay, now that's some cool twist. I'm impressed. Good job, junior writing partner. The house was imbued with its magic, and it became overprotective of those who lived within its walls. The conflict rises as the family becomes trapped in the house's protective bubble. That's exactly what I wanted. When I said like it's too overprotective, I wanted it to like the house is like it starts off with like wear a coat, it's cold outside. Nope, you just can't go outside. There's too much danger outside. You're stuck. They realize that they're not allowed to leave without permission from the spirit of the house, which leaves them feeling suffocated and claustrophobic. The family must find a way to break free from the Crow's Nest hold on them before it's too late. Throughout the story, Murphy and the tortoise play an integral role in helping the family understand the strange happenings in the house. Murphy can sense when something is amiss, and the tortoise seems to have a connection to the spirit world. Fantastic. Didn't know that about the tortoise. I'm glad that they did that. So yes, you can plant things, Q factors or red herrings or what clues or whatever in your brain dump, and the AI will figure out a way to incorporate them. I mean, how many of you thought the tortoise was going to have the connection to the spirit world? No. But now that you see it, you're like, yes, I want the candy. Yes, it did keep partner from the first part. Let's see here. As the family delves deeper into the secrets of the Crow's Nest, they face dangerous challenges that threaten their lives. They must use all their wits and strength to overcome the obstacles that stand in their way. In a climatic scene, the family confronts the evil society that once called the Crow's Nest home and put an end to the dark magic forever. In the end, the family is able to break free from the Crow's Nest hold on them and live a normal life outside of its walls. The house is left to stand as a reminder of the town's dark past and the power of magic that still lingers within its walls. So that ending, do we like that ending, or do we want like the Crow's Nest is now like a happy place for them? Like maybe they find a way to reverse the magic. So
but that's book 2.
That's book 2. And Jay did too. Depends on if you want a sequel. No happy ending. Oh, Jessica, you want no happy ending. We did light horror. now we want like the family dies. How about, okay, so does anybody have any changes that they would like? Y'all are mean this morning. Everyone's like, everybody dies except for the dog. What about the tortoise?
Oh, they must be direct messaging you, not seeing that.
No, it's in the chat there. The house burns down. Okay, I like that idea. John, that's a good idea. All in favor of the house burns down. Okay, Shannon, did you have a You have a topic, you have a thing?
Well, I just don't think we should drown the tortoise, but yeah, actually it does feel like the ending isn't developed enough so that if you were to have it start writing, it would be like that I want to tie it up with a bow thing that AI does.
Yeah, bowitis. It's got bow syndrome. Okay, so I think we're going to change it to where the house burns down. Now, this is a juncture where you get to make a decision. It's like a choose your own adventure. I could just put that in feedback and it would and tell it to regenerate the synopsis. And so it would just make that change. But can you all agree that if we're just changing the ending, do we really want to regenerate 443 words for just a fix at the end? No, this is a case of do not be a T-Rex. Your hands or your voice reach the computer, we just are going to manually fix it. And I just give that as a warning because even with this tool especially, it's very easy to fall down the rabbit hole of make the AI write all the words. So in the end, the family's able to break free from the crow's nest hold on them. And the house burns down as a result. Okay. After they move away, the last image is of a real estate developer putting up a sign after they bought it at auction for a steal, and rebuilding will start next week. How's that? Is that good and ominous? And yeah, perfect. Oh, because we have to be accurate for like towns, now rezoned to be multifamily housing. Book 2, people, book 2. It's got to be bigger. It's got to be worse. So we're taking it up a notch. Now, this is something that the AI could do if you gave it like instructions to do this. Like if you said, I need it to burn down and I need it to have multifamily housing, it could do that. But I'm the senior writing partner. Buys at, oh, thank you, Harper. Bought it at auction, not for a steal. Okay, so we have this synopsis and it's great. We're happy. I'm a nervous Nelly. I like to copy and click copy. And then if I know that I'm working in this project, I'm going to close this X here. It will take me back to this main project here. And then I can type in summary and I can right click and I'll paste my summary into there. And then I just one click back over to Story Engine. Now, eventually these are going to talk a lot better to each other where we'll just have like a button that you can just send it to your main pseudo write. But for right now, you just need to copy it. So it's right here, copy. You can copy and paste it into Scrivener. You can copy and paste it into Word, whatever your thing is. Or I like to just X out and bring it into X out and bring it into my main project. Now, the other reason I like to bring it into my main project area is because all of your regular pseudo write tools that you know and love are now at your disposal to make changes to the summary. If you want to bump up the description and everything like that, you have your describe feature right away. If you want to highlight something here and you want to click rewrite and you want to say more descriptive or show not tell or more inner conflict, more intense, let's say more intense. You have the ability now to work with this piece that Story Engine created for you, which is a big chunk. I mean, it's like 500 words. You could now use your other pseudo write tools if you needed them to help you beef it up and make it even stronger. So there is that option. Any questions so far about how you copy and paste and bring things into pseudo write proper? Nope. Okay. And very soon they're going to integrate a lot better with each other. All right, let's find out who the heck is in this story. Go characters. Oh, I just realized something. I missed an opportunity. So by clicking characters, I could have, I'm going to click cancel on this. We got Emma, and that is so generic. I don't even like it. Power of the style box. For a modern reading audience, lots of twists and turns, many cliffhangers. We can actually talk about the characters now. Like we could put some style in here that is going to directly impact the characters. Maybe your characters are from a certain socioeconomic background or their heritage or culture is different. You can do that with the style box. So I'm going to say, for my characters, for the style, I want the family was distantly related to the aunt, and originally from, where do you want them to have moved from? That's like super weird. I went to Texas. That was like my default thought, but it doesn't have to be Texas. Do we want to make them from the UK? Like they moved over from England?
Pennsylvania.
Transylvania. That might get a little campy. Los Angeles. Oh, Scotland. That's good. Originally from Scotland. And the teens do not like they had to move to America. All right, so now that we have that information, now let's see what it generates for the characters. Should change their names and things like that to be. We have Lucille Maynard. Martin Grayson. So it did make her partner male. Olivia. I like that the last names are different too. Like it made the children the last names of the mother. Oh, I thought he said Transylvania, not Pennsylvania.
Both work.
Now look at this. It created the character of the original builder of the Crow's Nest and founder of the Secret Society. So Story Engine has the ability to read synopsis and brain dump and genre and style and find the characters that it needs to create. Now it decides that it only needs 6 characters. It did take bias on partner, but I think that it's great that it didn't automatically necessarily say that they're married or anything like that. So it was working on it. I didn't say what gender the partner was. Now here's a trick that you can do because there's more room in here. 373 words. If I am being very those decisions are made statistical probabilities. So like Sean, if you go to the Pseudowrite website, basically tokens are created. It's created at the very small level for the tokens of what's next, what is most statistically likely next, and then you can kind of knob control a little bit sometimes what how random it's allowed to be. Okay, so the mysterious woman in connection, she becomes an accomplice to the family in their quest to break free. I don't see enough villains here or anything like that. So one of the things that I'm going to do, just because we're demoing, usually I would take this and I would start fleshing out a lot of characters somewhere else. And I think that our character box eventually will need to be bigger. But you can go great. Keep all those and add some more minor characters. So I'm just going to say rewrite with feedback, and that's the only feedback I'm going to give it. So now you can see that it's keeping everything the same because I said keep all of those, and now I said to add some minor characters, and it looks like it's stopped. Let's try this again. The house could be listed as a character. That's probably something I'd want to control at the summary level. Just because in our experience, when we put non-character things in there, sometimes it can be a little bit wonky. Okay, so this is not working. So I need to flag that. I bet you there's something in there that like it's hitting 6 and it thinks it needs to stop. But have no fear because I have Pseudowrite laser tools. So I just copy the characters. If I want more characters, another way I can do it is come out of Story Engine. So we're going to call this the summary, and I'm going to put this up here. And we're only at 456. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to go characters and paste in my characters. And yes, I can tell it how many characters to add because now I'm in Pseudowrite, and I'm just going to put a command here in parentheses. Add side characters for the story. My write settings, I'm going to bump my creativity up because it's fine to invent different things. 250 words, 2 cards is fine. And now I click write. And it's going to read up 836 words that's currently in my document. And look at that. Regular pseudo-write was smart enough to be able to bring in Murphy and the tortoise and Mr. Wilson and Dr. Julia Wright and Thomas Bradshaw. Now this is interesting that it decided to bring in another distant relative of the Bradshaws who are like, hey, that's my house. I want it. That could be a really cool twist. We have Detective Richards. Cool. Zachary, a local boy who befriends, oh, and look, here we have the spirit of the house. So I'm going to take all of these actually. I don't know if there'll be room, but I'm going to say we can cut the tortoise and Murphy. I think that it already knows those and it'll be fine to get those from the other areas. So I'm going to specifically take this and bring it here. I don't think Dr. Julia White's cool. I might keep her as for later. And then I really liked also Detective Richards, Zachary, and the spirit of the house. So, and then I'll renumber these so that we had 10, 11. So this is 12, 13, and 14. Any questions so far on how I got it to give me more characters in a pseudo-write document and how these things are working together with Story Engine? I know this is.
We need the numbers.
You don't need the numbers, which will save on character. Well, it won't save on word count really. Go ahead, John. I couldn't hear
Yeah,
you.
if you have existing characters, so you're writing I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now. And then
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay, if you have existing characters, so you're writing a sequel to a previous story, can you put those into Braindump?
yes, you
Or
could. Absolutely.
How would you handle existing characters?
So I think
Okay.
I'm going to have to make like an
Okay.
entire class on that, just because to use Story Engine on an existing work, there's a couple of different precursor steps that you need to do, like converting that story into an outline format or something like that it understands. But we have put like that kind of like synopsis into Braindump and said, we're writing book 2 of this with these characters, and it just does it in the synopsis. It'll just do it.
Oh.
So I'm going to copy what I have. And the highlighted words are only 577, so that should fit into the character box. So I'm going to select all in the character box and I'm just pasting in. So now we have these extra characters here. See, Detective Richards, we have this information. If you have more characters than what will fit in the box, you will manually need to manage your characters. So you'll bring characters into the box that are supposed to be in the scenes. You'll take characters out of the box and then put other characters in. Right now, the tool is designed to automatically pull the stuff that's salient and everything like that, but you can manually control that. Amy, did you have a question?
Yes, and I almost already forgot it. About adding commands with parentheses into that document in pseudo-write.
Yeah.
What kind of things can you add? Is there a help document anywhere on that, or just trial and error?
Slack. I know you just joined the Slack and everything, and you just joined. So if you come to pseudo-write 101, I teach all of that class. I teach all of the advanced stuff and the beginner stuff of all of these individual tools here.
Okay, excellent. I'll be there tonight. I think you have one, right?
Perfect. Then I'll see you at 9 o'clock.
Great.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything like that. It's just,
no, it's fine.
So it's so powerful. We'd be here for hours.
that makes perfect sense.
Okay. So we have our characters pretty decent. We're okay. We're going to go moving on to the outline. So I'm just going to click generate so then I can talk about it while it's generating. Number 1, you can bring your own outline to the party. Okay. You are not locked in any way, shape, or form in what the outline style is or structure is. The only thing that is required is the formatting. And I'm going to click this question mark so you can see the formatting while that's generating. The formatting just has to say section 1 - introduction : and then new line, part 1. And actually, now that I think about it, cancel, stop, go back, get out of that. What did I forget to change, guys? My style box. So it gets tricky. It really does. If you do it, like, it's really easy to click that generate button and be like, oh wait, I have some information in there. Not that this will really mess things up necessarily, but if I put here,
It will make the outline focus pretty exclusively on the fact that from Scotland and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, it'll do all kinds of crazy stuff here. So for this outline here, I'm going to do that it is parts of the story should mirror family trauma and past history. The family did emigrate from Scotland to take the house. So I'm putting that information in too, so that there can be some funny like mistakes or whatever of culture. And anything else that I want in the style of the outline. Oh, lots of cliffhangers. There we go. So I want lots of, yes, you can keep changing the style box as you go. You can't use the style to generate a Save the Cat outline. The outline style that this is actually in is our Hollywood Beats format, which is very, very similar to Save the Cat. There's just a couple of tweaks there to make sure that the AI understands what is meant by like things like dark moment of the soul or something like that. It explains like that's the character at rock bottom or things like that. So it is, we did go with Hollywood Beats because that was the most generic outline that could kind of accommodate everybody's genre needs. But I think the real secret of this particular tool is you may bring your own outline. So you could use this as a start. You could use it, just take the section 1 introduction, part 1, put your own information in there, because the outline tool was really important for us, that we could keep it flexible for all the different genres and all the different styles of writing and stuff that are out there, whether you want short novellas or you want long novels or you want epic sagas or whatever you're trying to do. Let me read the chat just so I could catch up a little bit. That's a great idea, Sylvia. If you don't mind bringing that to the Slack, so we can get.
Will do.
Yeah, because eventually we want the suggestions and stuff to go on Sleek Plan, which is the suggested feature thing that Pseudowrite has. But while this is in beta and everything, Slack is just fine, so that we can get some other input from other users too in kind of an informal way. Because on one hand, I do like the style guide box. On the other side of it, it would get tedious for me that I would always have to type something new in, because I'm thinking along the terms of like, if we add a history button on that style box, as I'm using the same styles over and over again, I could just open up my history and restore different ones that I've already used. So it's kind of like a prompt saving methodology. But I would like the style box, and we have plans for, I think, for it to float and come over as you're generating things. So, okay, so we have this beginning of it. Let me see. You could tell it that you want each to end in a cliffhanger, and you can also change it. How would you instruct it to write a novella versus a novel outline? Did you say that already? So you would need, right now it is kind of hard coded for 4 sections: section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4. You can tweak it for the length by controlling how many commands you're running in each section or how many sections you have. Each section doesn't have to have this many parts. Each section, you don't even have to have this many sections if you don't want to. So one of the things that the outline does is it populates this drop-down box. So you can see how I have section 1, introduction, part 1. What if I want 4 parts in my first section? All I have to do is click enter, type in part 4 with a colon and another enter. And now you'll see on my Dropbox, I have a part 4. So if I don't want, let's say I only want 2 parts in there, I could take part 3 out. And now you'll notice there is no part 3 in section 1. This works for all the sections, by the way. You can take sections out, you can add sections in, you can do whatever you need to do. Now, it is very important now that it wasn't as important in previous iterations of Story Engine, you need to validate the entire outline before you move on. Like that's critical, because as you're generating commands, it's going to take the entire outline into consideration. And in a few minutes, we'll talk about how you can be a pantser with this situation, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you're not going to validate the entire outline, if you're more of a pantser, then copy and paste this into something else, and then you can just bring in pieces of it as you want to work with it. But as it's assigned now, it's designed for all the information you give it, it's assuming is correct and accurate. So this would be the moment in time when I would go back and I would decide, does my synopsis and my brain dump match the outline, or vice versa, or make some changes. And I think in the future, we might even be able to have some tooling that could maybe alert you to some inconsistencies across those different pieces. If you guys are interested in something like that, let us know, because I know it can be probably complicated to try to make sure everything's consistent.
You can do a feedback button, like take the feedback tool that we already have and just add that to this.
Check for consistency. Okay, so she's a dedicated mother and partner, lives a relatively normal life and her family in a small apartment in the city. She works as a nurse at the local hospital, while her partner, Martin Grayson, is a high school history teacher. The two children, Olivia and Ethan, attend the same school where Martin works. The family has adopted a rescue German Shepherd mix. Well, that was just a bunch of description about them. The family decides to move into the house, hoping for a better life away from their cramped city apartment. I don't think it really captured that they've moved from Scotland just to take this house. So I would not be a T-Rex usually, but we are on a class, so we're going to go a little bit faster here. We don't actually have a feedback button here. We need to do that for here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just make changes here. I guess we'll just keep it right now. In the future, I would make that change for Scotland and everything like that, because I want to show you guys the features of how it works. So since part 1 has a tendency to just do like that opening image of information, we're going to see what happens with the commands, because I think that it's going to be even better now with what comes next. So now that I'm ready to write, I'm just going to click Introduction Part 1, click Start the Scene. It's going to port over Section 1, Part 1 from the outline. So if I make changes over here, I still need to, before I click generate, it would be a good idea to go ahead and update over here just so that they're in congruence with each other, because it's going to look at both now. And I'm going to click generate the commands. Now let's talk about commands for a second. Commands are going to look to you like story beats. And it's true that all story beats are commands, 100%. If you're used to thinking in story beats, you're going to be fine with commands. But commands are also very powerful, like that style box. You can tweak and really like laser pinpoint pieces of your story by changing the command. Like you could tell one command that it needs to write in a flowery way or something like that. You could tell a command that it's just a letter between two characters. You can write a command that says, describe the opulence of the room and all of the couples dancing and name their names and give them backstories. You are in the driver's seat when it comes to commands, and thinking of it like an orchestra conductor, of like you are conducting the orchestra. So commands are really cool and powerful. You'll also notice they take a little bit longer than they used to generate. That's because it's now taking in information from the outline, from the summary, from the genre, and also the style box. I know I didn't change my style box. I would change it later. So here we go. It picked up that the scene is open with the cramped city apartment. She's going to return home from her nursing job exhausted but smiling as she greets her family, showing her resilience and dedication. Martin, the history teacher, is introduced as he helps Olivia and Ethan with their homework, demonstrating his supportive and patient nature. Keeps going. Now this is the part where I could make changes to that characterization. I could have made Ethan could be a little punk. Like I could be like, Ethan is sarcastic and he hates authority and he's, you know, whatever you want to do with the characters, you have full control to do. They've adopted a tortoise that they've named Shelly. I'm sorry, that's hilarious that the tortoise's name is Shelly. So once we have this information, you would do your best to validate this and make sure that you like it all. You would make changes. You could add to it. I'm going to show some changes to it in just a second once we get the scene pros going. So anybody have any questions so far about commands?
Yes, I have a question. Elizabeth, hi, it's Amir. In the command, can you place quotes? So if you want somebody to say something, can you use quotation marks? And also, is each command only, are you only allowed one sentence per command? So if it's a follow on, or if it's getting a little bit complicated, you have to put it as a separate part. That makes sense.
No, your commands can actually be more than one sentence long.
Okay.
Each command roughly translates to 200 to 400 words. So if you think about it that way, you can think about, well, what do I want 200 words to cover? And that's what you could put into your command. And then a part of your other question was dialogue. Yes, we'll put some dialogue in and we'll make sure that it does it. I need to update my style box before I forget again, because we're going to generate prose in just a second. So I'm going to keep modern reading audience should be a page turner. And what else? What other information do we want in the style box about
Lots of
prose?
cliffhangers.
Huh?
Lots of cliffhangers.
Lots of
Would you put
cliffhangers.
that in there?
I don't think that would go.
Or could you
Prose.
ask it to end each section on a cliffhanger?
End on a cliffhanger. Always end. Oh yeah, twists and turns. Always end on a cliffhanger. Okay, so we've got some good stuff there. Rick, you had a question.
Yeah, so you said that the outline section should match with the scene synopsis.
Yeah, so if you start making changes here, make sure you copy and paste it over here, because when it generates these commands, it's going to look at this part, but it's also going to look at this as a whole and start processing the story as a whole now. And if those are not in congruence with each other, you could see how you would get some really funky commands.
Okay, so because what I've been doing is taking the outline section and then expanding it to meet the 500 words that I have in the scene synopsis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we've cut the scene synopsis down to 150 because now we're looking at the outline as a whole.
Okay. Okay.
So
all right.
I agree. This is a big change in how we've been used to using the tool, and I apologize, but it's to make it work better.
No,
So
that's fine.
So
just want to understand.
The new methodology now would be, so you may have to break your sections up into smaller sections to run them. So you would just break it up smaller because we sacrificed space in the summary box to have better logical congruence with the prose writing.
So would that be a best practice to have longer descriptions in the outline?
Nope, because you're still going to be limited to 150 words in the outline. So basically,
Sure.
if your scene summary would be more than 150 words, that's your cue that it should be more than one scene. It should be another part.
Okay. All right.
And I understand that that's a change. That's a change. But wait till you see what happens. So we think that our new methodology here is actually, it's going to be better with red herrings, because now we're looking at the outline as a whole. And so it's going to, we're hoping that this is going to fix some of the problems we had in like earlier versions where it tried to solve the mystery in chapter 1 because it knew there was a mystery. Or if you said that something was a red herring or a clue, it was like really on the nose about it, because now it's going to have this context of what is the whole story supposed to be like.
Add a red herring here. It says, so the detective is distracted by the red herring.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and add some dialogue. The person who asked for dialogue, how about when we have helping their homework, demonstrating his supportive and patient nature? Ethan will say, I suck at math. I'll never get it. Okay, so we're putting that piece of dialogue in there that I want to have happen. Okay, I think we're ready to click the button. This is the magical part. I'm sorry, you guys. I know you guys have waited an hour patiently for this part. So here we go. We click generate. And now it's going to read those commands. And we have this terminology called a stride. A stride is how many commands at one time is it looking at? And it will always tell you what stride it's doing by putting the numbers right here. So this part right now is writing 1 through 2. Now, I can already say that that first sentence is one I would tweak. I think we can all agree. The Maynard's family's apartment felt like a shoebox that someone had crammed with books, toys, and an assortment of mismatched furniture. It's not terrible, but I don't think I would put toys when I've got two teenage kids in the house. The umbrella. Now, I like that detail. Not to dislodge the umbrella propped up against the wall. I've lived in small apartments before. You literally have everything like right there. It's like, don't turn around. You're gonna knock something over. Mom, you're home early. Only a little bit. How was school? Good. Ethan's still working on his math homework. I don't know why he insists on doing it on the floor. Maybe he finds it more comfortable. Oh my gosh, these are such teenagers. One always complaining about the other. So 1 to 2 right here is which commands this section is. And as I scroll down, it'll tell us when it picks up commands 3 and 4. So this section is sections 3 and 4. So this is where we should see this dialogue of I suck at math. I'll never get it. Oh, look, Olivia realized, like, it picks up that he's a history teacher. So can I ask you something about the French Revolution? Did Marie Antoinette really say, let them eat cake? Oh, here we go. I suck at math. I'll never get it. All right, Martin's a little bit too Mary Suey. We got to change it a little bit. Like, we don't throw a pencil. I'm impressed that the AI was able to bring in some French Revolution talk. Now again, it had free reign to do what it wanted. If I wanted her to have specific historical questions, like, I don't know, perhaps about the 1800s and the whaling industry, I would put that in my commands so that that's like planting the information for later on in the story. So that's where you could do. Obviously, the French Revolution doesn't really correlate to. Maybe I would make her, I mean, this family has they love pets. So I would probably make one of these teens like super eco. That's why like they're against whaling and everything. But these are things that don't happen in my brain until I see what the junior writing partner is doing. I didn't even have that idea until I started reading this scene and start going, oh, I could make these deeper connections. I could do this. Yeah, our living condition. Although I've had a teen who, I was that teen actually. All right, where do we have the looping? Yep. I see. It did kind of loop it again. I wouldn't actually mind it if he repeated, I suck at math. I do sometimes, like in this particular instance, it could be he could just emphasize like, oh, I just really suck at math. So it kind of like didn't pick up the whole Scotland thing. I think I just didn't make it as prominent, and I didn't make changes to the outline and stuff to emphasize that. So we've dropped the Scotland thing. We're just letting it go. It took it into consideration when it was making their names, and we've moved on. If I was actually committed to it needed to be Scotland, I would have made significant changes and stuff. But for the purposes of the demo, I was like, okay, that was too much. We're just going to keep going. But yes, you could say that a character speaks with a Scottish brogue or an Irish brogue, or slang, only speaks in slang, only gives one word answers. You could absolutely change the characterization at that level. Okay, so we're at dinner. Oh, because I have you. It's so sweet. Does the length of the prose it generates depend on the number of commands? Yes. No, it's actually the number of commands. So each command is going to always do. Oh, that's so funny. I'll answer that, John, because we just talked about that before this meeting, before this class. So back to Rick's question. Rich, yes. So each command is going to be 200 to 400 words. So if you do it in like increments of 400 words, if you want a scene to be 2000 words, then you only need 5 commands, or 5 to 6 commands roughly. Because it might be a little bit more, it might be a little bit less. You do not have to have 12 commands. No. And actually, now that I think about it, it's more closer to the 200 point, because we're at 1800 words right now, and we're in 9 through 10. So 12 commands roughly does 2400 words, 2200 words. If you have more information in your command, it can write more. Also with your style box, if you say lots of description, that's one way that you can get about 15% more words. So you can actually tease it to make changes in how many words you want and everything like that. Oh no, no bueno. We just got us stuck. Okay, so it got 9 through 10 and then it stopped at 1900 words. And so this is where we're bringing in, oh, nope, I was just kidding. Okay, so that's a good point to make now. Don't like really wait for it because it looked like it was stuck, but it actually kept going. We do actually have a mechanism going now where it will try to continue if it has a fail. So just be patient for an extra minute. Did you guys see that real fast? Yeah. And that is because it doesn't do this. We have done some, okay, the chat's going really, really fast. I knew that this would be the moment that like blows everyone's mind. Okay, the membership levels are pro and max. Hold on, let me scroll up here a little bit. John, I love that you guys tweaked all that, or that you said all that. Let me see if Ryan is still here or not. We just literally talked about that, about having a pause button instead of a cancel button and then make adjustments and then keep going. That's coming. We're thinking about a play and a pause button and stuff so that it's an interactive situation when you're generating this, and then that it can pick it back up. That's a little bit of advanced tooling that they need to work on. So that's something that none of us have had. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I play with like other AI tools or something like that, I can't pause it, make fixes, and have it keep going. Okay, this dialogue has many exclamation points and marks. Is there a way? Yes, you can always put that in the style. Anything you don't like about what you see, you can make tweaks to your style. You can make tweaks to, like I said, for a modern reading audience, it might have decided that's why it needed exclamation points. But you can actually say, don't put a lot of doing that. I did not make any changes on like how I wanted it wording or anything like that. I just let it go free form. That's why you have a lot of adverbs and you have a lot of like, you know, very basic dialogue. I did not change any of my characters to say like who's snarky, who's not, who speaks slowly, who speaks. I didn't do any of those changes. Those are changes that you'd want to do in advanced story engine moves. Do you have to have 12 commands? No, you can have as few commands as you want. I definitely recommend you have at least 2. Let's see. Movie script. You can in the style say that it's for a screenplay. It's kind of wonky in terms of like it's not specifically designed for screenwriting right now. That's something that we could do down in the future, but there are some ways that you can make this happen. Okay, very cool, Sean. Very early in tool, note, not yet. So it's not bulletproof or fine-tuned. Okay, cool. So yes, this is in beta, guys. So it's going to have some unexpected things. So the first thing I would do is I would start validating. Did it do pretty much what it did? You guys said we had some looping between 4 and 5, I think it was. So if I had that, I might hit the page down button and just say that there's some duplication there. If I love it, I would hit the thumbs up, and we're going to eventually add feedback there too, so that you guys can share that. So those are some of the ways that we could make change. Will it add the vocabulary of genius who speaks only formally like Sheldon Cooper? Okay. Yes, you can make changes to the dialogue and everything like that. Genre is the way when it's in the prompting, genre is specifically talking about genre. So you don't necessarily want to put stuff in the genre box that's about the writing style, because where those different boxes are being pulled for into the prompting to give it instructions about how to write, that's not always equivalent. And what I mean by that is that if you say in the style of contemporary romance, that'll be fine. But sometimes if you put weird things in your genre box, you get really weird writing because it's trying to create this genre that doesn't exist. Go ahead, Annie.
So let's say I already have a story that is half written. I have 40,000 words in it already. And I want Pseudo to write the middle for me using Story Engine. How would I go about that?
So that is a very advanced technique. What you're going to have to do is you're going to need to write a synopsis and I would have an outline of everything that's happened thus far in the book, plus your character list. And then your later part of the outline there, like you would need to come with an outline already generated. It's not going to be able to generate your outline for you halfway done, but you could do the trick that I did where you put your outline into the right, into regular pseudo right, and then you use the right command to expand out your outline. And then once you have your outline finalized, that's what you would bring in, and those would be the scenes that you would generate.
All right, I would love to see that in a future video.
Yeah,
If we can,
that's something
know,
that
you-
is like next iteration. So basically, as soon as Story Engine is stable, you will get lots of tips and tricks videos from me about how best to harness it. But right now, we've been making I've been hesitant to do some of those. Like we just had a major change. Like I've been teaching people for 2 weeks now. It doesn't look at anything except for this, and now that's changed, and now it is looking at everything. When it's generating these commands, it is these commands, it's looking at everything, including Braindump, and that's a new change. Now, if you don't want it to look at Braindump, like let's say you do want it to go back to the way it used to work, and you're like, when I'm done with Braindump, I'm done with Braindump, and I'm not going to go back and edit that. Just delete it out the box, and it won't affect it. And you can just save it for later.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep. Now let's talk about another really powerful feature about this tool that I think I just realized it last week, and I think it's brilliant and it's so cool. So when I have introduction part 1, if I click start scene, it's going to create another one. It doesn't overwrite the one that I already did. So this is an opportunity to test different things that I want to change. So to keep in the spirit of experimentation and keeping things all the same, this command section, I'm going to just copy it and I'm going to paste it right in. So the commands are the same. Okay. And now one of the things that we wanted to change was we wanted to use said 90% of the time, and we want less adverbs, right? So in the style, I'm going to say, I'm going to keep should be a page turner. I'm going to go very few exclamation points. You said as a dialogue tag as much as possible. And what was the other change? Fewer adverbs. Stronger verbs. Okay, so do you see how we made those changes? And now we're going to come over here and I'm just going to click generate, and let's see if we can start seeing some of those changes take place in the prose. I did nothing with the commands. I made no changes to the commands whatsoever. So it should be the exact same. Like Remnants of a Forgotten Battlefield. Man, it got a lot more literary fiction in a heartbeat. Dark hair and bright, determined eyes. Oh, I like that. Fumbling to mark her spot in the book before setting it down to greet her mother. That's a really cool, little note there. So now you'd have the opportunity to go left and right here. Yeah, I don't think I got that. So I may have to make changes to that more directly. You know what? I bet the conflict is that I said strong verbs at the same time I said only you said. I do like this. I suck at math better. So that's where the prompting and things gets interesting. It can be a challenge to find out where you're contradicting yourself. I've played with the AI enough to know, like, oh, I see exactly where I contradicted myself. I said stronger verbs, and then I said, oh, but don't use them. And it likes to go top down. So because I said first, and then basically I overrode it with use stronger verbs, that's where we ended up, because all of these are verbs announced. So it can be pretty fun. So this is what I'm talking about. You have to pause and just wait, because like it got stuck, but just give it a little bit and it should pick it back up again. Because I thought it was stuck too. Although I feel like it should say something like when it's stuck like this. It picked it back up last time. I don't know what it's doing. It definitely thinks it's, oh, so, okay, there you go. And it kept going. So it really is wait a long time and it will figure itself out and it'll get back on top. It'll get back on track.
And by a long time, she means more than 10 seconds.
Okay, was I the only one who thought it was stuck and it wasn't going to keep going? You thought it would keep going, Leland?
I have faith in our developers. They are amazing people.
Yeah, this is a new feature that it does this, by the way. It didn't used to do this. It didn't, if it got stuck before, you were just copy and pasted and you went again, but they really tried to fix that so that you guys aren't wasting words or anything.
I had it get stuck for a real long time yesterday, but then it started and I was just about ready to hit cancel.
So John, we don't really have control over what the AI's political stances. These algorithms are created by other companies, namely Anthropic and OpenAI, so we don't have control over that. Yeah, so that's the thing. If the cancel button is here, it's still trying to generate. That's the check for the fail safe if it's still going or not. So as for the somebody asking for access, I'm going to have to wait till the end because I'm sharing my screen. There was a call at the beginning of the class. You do need to be at, you do need to have a membership that's at the Pro or the Max plan to get access to Story Engine today. And that gets you access before everybody else. Yeah, we're just stopping at the command. There was no cancel button, just generate. Okay, so that's where it messed up. But now it shouldn't do that anymore, Jessica. Are we stuck again? I guess we are.
Elizabeth, while it's still thinking, can you tell me how you got it to generate the same section and part again? I missed that. I know that you changed the style, but physically, what did you do? Where
I
did
just
you
copied
throw?
and pasted the commands over again. Oh, you
Oh,
wanted to know how I did the same section. So in the drop down, you just
yes.
grab this and click start scene. You could literally have 5 versions of
Oh.
chapter 1 if you wanted to. Don't recommend it,
Thank
but
you.
you could. The other thing that I will also talk about is we had some users that one person had 25 scenes open and it started to get really buggy and laggy. That's because your browser only has so much memory that it can do. So you probably don't want to do more than like 5 or 6 scenes at a time. You want to copy and paste and close them out and everything like that.
I was testing.
Yeah.
That was it. I was just testing the limits. It totally wasn't that I was lazy and didn't want to delete things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yes, to close out a scene, you delete the entire section. Make sure you copy and paste everything out of it before it copy and paste it so that you have it. John, you said that you need to stress test it great. Is that like good great or bad great? I can't tell if that's sarcasm or not. Okay, good. Okay, yes. Yes, this is definitely beta. There, Amr, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did have a question, but I
Sure, go
think
ahead.
I have the answer for it. You said you can delete sections, and is that because pseudo-write or Story Engine, it doesn't actually look at the previous sections when creating new ones? It looks at the commands only that you put in.
Correct.
And
It actually looks at the outline. So this is something
outline,
cool.
that's it,
So
yeah.
if you are working in this in scene 1 and you're doing things and you're like, okay, I'm going to change this completely. If you change it completely and it no longer matches the outline, fix your outline because your future scenes are going to read that outline and it's going to think that the other thing happened than what you have. So for example, if I decide suddenly to add a meteor crashes into their apartment, when I'm writing, when I come down to the pros here, and I'm like, I'm going to just change all of this. If I change all of it, I need to update the outline. So the outline is now your living, breathing kind of like bones of the story that it needs to keep narrative logic because that's how the AI is going to keep narrative logic for the whole story for you. Does that make sense to everybody?
Understood.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, it doesn't look at the scenes; it looks at the outline. So
Yes.
we can, when we're done with the scenes, we can copy and paste and then just remove them
Exactly.
due to memory issues. Okay.
Exactly. It's
And
gonna look at
browser
the
speed
outline, not the
performance.
individual
Yep.
scenes. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, so we made one change here. The other thing that you can do is you can write out of order. If your outline is solid, you can go ahead and I want climax and conclusion, that one, and generate the commands. It's going to read the outline, so it knows the whole story of what happened. It doesn't matter what happened there. So you can do this. I will say that for pantsers, this might get a little bit tricky for you, because if you're not really solid on what the middle part is, you may end up kind of like generating stuff later, doing the middle, then having to go back and redo the later stuff because you've changed your mind on things that happened earlier in the story. But I don't think that that's necessarily story engine. That's just like the pantsing way of writing life, right? Like, I mean, I've pantsed a couple of books and have had to redo 6 chapters before. That's why I don't pants anymore. But to each their own, to each their own. How many pantsers do we have in the house? If you want to say in chat or anything like that, if anyone identifies as a pantser, because I'm going to do that last little bit and then we're going to be done for the, this is a lot. This is a long class. Half and half, a plantser. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to take a look at that. Yes, Sylvia.
So one quick thing, for the parent's perspective, I've been relying heavily on being able to go into a lot of detail in the summary box to make sure that it knew what I was kind of pantsing, because the outline box, I don't use it as effectively. I was wondering if there's any chance that we'll see the summary word count increase back to where it had been.
I don't think it can because of the context window, because we are now taking into consideration what was like when it's actually writing the prose, we're taking into consideration the previous part of the prose and we're doing all this information and pieces of it. So what I would suggest is I hate to ask you of this and I do apologize. You may have to get a little bit more comfortable with the outline box and start thinking of your summaries in smaller chunks. So for example, if your summary, if you're used to putting information in the summary box, you can now just put that into outline and then like divide it up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because will it cause a problem if the only outline that's over there is like the last like 5 chapters? Would that still
Not at
work?
all. That's what I'm about to show in just a second here that we can.
Okay, awesome.
Do that, yeah. So there is a way to get away from that if you don't want to have to stick to the outline. Number one, I really want a tool that like takes what I wrote and then it turns that into an outline and then the outline just goes back. So it's like this loop thing. Oh, we're going to get it. I want it. We're going to get it. Because I mean, how many of you would find that to be a really helpful tool? It's like, if I'm like, I'm done with this document, now summarize it for my future self. So I don't have to reread it. And then that summary replaces the original summary in the outline, like, or I could control it and say like, yeah, go there. I think that that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to end up closing that loop so that this is a fully interactive process of like, you feel like Mickey Mouse and the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and you just can do all of the spells and all of the things. Very magical. Oh, that's another, that's like version 3.0, Kristen, where we start getting the marketing copy for these things that we're creating. I agree with you. So it looks like we're starting to fall victim to the daily middle of the day East Coast OpenAI is sluggish trap that we're all having right now. So I'm actually going to click cancel on this and just delete this section because I really want to show how you guys can work without an outline. I think that that's going to be very important. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to copy this part, this section 1, part 1, just so that I have it. Yes, I'm going to delete the entire section. I know I'm not writing this book. I feel guilty immediately already. I didn't come up with all the stuff for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to delete everything in the outline. So this is one way that you could hack this as a pantser. If this is all the information I know about the story, and let's go even more drastic. Let's get rid of the brain dump. Let's go full pantser. I don't know anything about this story. I'm going to leave the characters for right now, just because I'm going to assume pantsers need something with what they're writing. Like, right? I mean, you guys have some pieces or elements of the story before you're. deciding a scene, or so maybe you don't know all of these characters, but I think you would at least know all of the characters who are in that scene, right? Or a little bit of information about them. Maybe you don't know everything about them, like it wouldn't be as full-fledged as this, but you would have something. So now that I have this section 1, and this is how little the outline could need, I can do section 1, part 1, and I can generate the commands. It doesn't have to have anything in there. It's literally just going to read this little bit here. And this is where if you knew more information, like let's say you're used to those 500 box, that 500 word box, I would just have part 1, part 2, part 3, and divide up my 500 words across them, and then change my commands accordingly for what length I wanted. Does that make sense, Sylvia? I know this is like backwards math than what it used to be. And
Yeah, no, this makes a lot more sense.
yeah, it was a choice we had to make in order to keep better fidelity to what it was, what people were trying to get to write.
And yeah, knowing that, I guess, can be very easy to work with.
Yeah. So here we go. So so you see, without this other information, it's coming up with like an entirely different way of doing this scene. It's now she's waking up in the morning because it doesn't know all this other information about they're going to inherit a house, or, well, I mean, a little bit from the characterization there that it knows, but it's got so it made Ethan shy and sensitive. Oh, and Olivia's characterization actually talks about she is tech savvy. And so it picked that up in the commands, and it said she's sharing a new scientific discovery she read about, demonstrating intelligence and curiosity. So these are definitely ways that once you get into this and you start playing with it, it's a little overwhelming with how many different options and variations and variabilities. It's like a choose your own adventure writing experience for those of us who love those stories. So we see here, what's interesting is that it's very confusing about, so nursing shift, more haunting phenomena. And so this is where things can get a little bit off kilter. Because I have that information about the haunting in the crow's nest with no other context, it's just like bringing it in is like, that's reality right now, because that's only in my characters. So I'd actually want to change the character list to only have the information about that makes sense for that scene. So can you guys see how it brought that into the commands? So what I would do is I would update my characters and stuff like that. And speaking of that, that's another hack that you can use with Story Engine. There are authors who are taking the character list and they are writing the character list of like, what is this character like in Act 1? Then copying the character list into like another document and coming up with what is this character like in Act 2, and then Act 3, so that you could actually capture the movement of the character as it's going through the acts. So there's a lot of functionality there. All right, so does that help my pantsers to see how you could bring as little information as you wanted into the game? Okay. And you'll just have to, for those of you used to the summary box being 500 words, you'll just need to lean a little bit more on characters and outline to put information in. All right. Well, that is Story Engine 101. Oh, go ahead, Sylvia.
One last quick question. When it's generating the actual text, it only looks at commands, right? Or does it look anywhere else besides commands when it's generating the actual final text?
It is commands and characters. It is, so right looks at prose. I'm sorry, let's use the right word. Scene prose uses commands, characters, style, and genre. That has not changed. The only major change was the actual generation of the commands, which, by the way, you don't have to use. You can bring your own commands to the party. If you really, really want to pants this thing, like you really just like, you know what, characters, forget characters. Yeah, those are all gone. We're just bye. Summary. Yeah, that's all I've got. I've got this and I've got this and I've got my commands. Then you could just generate, and actually I'm going to take this out because you know how we had those things about the scene, about the crow's nest and all that stuff. I'm just going to take that completely out. It doesn't know anything about the haunted house. It doesn't have a clue that that's coming. And we'll see what these commands. So it's probably just going to be very slice of life and very like It might actually pick some hint of the ghost story because we said it's a ghost story. So it might suddenly try to make their apartment haunted because it doesn't know that they're going to move to a big house. So yes, you can adjust each individual command needed before generating the prose 100%. This is why I say every single box in here you can type and you can change it. You just probably want to do that after you hit generate. Because if you hit generate after you do that, it's going to wipe away all the changes you made. Other than what's captured in the history box. Go gadget. All right, there was one other person that I needed to get access to. Okay, so now we see, yeah, so there will, Jessica Black says she rewrote all of her commands and her prose was more on what she wanted. Sass, the question is, this will be on YouTube very shortly. Like I literally have it on my schedule to like edit this up and get it up on YouTube as soon as possible because this is Story Engine 101 and I think we've gotten through a lot of information. So you can see how these commands, they don't have anything about the crow's nest, do they? They don't have anything about the ghost or anything like that. So this is how you could truly pants. You could just stick some information in here. Even in the summary or whatever, you're almost kind of treating your outline as like a brain dump in a way. So, I mean, you could be, we even did some experiments the other night where we had all the boxes empty and we just said, write a story and it wrote something for us, which was kind of crazy. and then it kind of got worse and worse each time we kept generating something else. It was like, no, I don't want to do anymore. So, and then I would just take, click generate. I could change my style and everything like that and keep going. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. And thank you so much for everyone watching. I'm going to stop the recording now.